Today we are going to discuss about introduction to LOD. So level of details is a new concept. So this is very most important in Tableau. So LOD is nothing but level of details. So we are going to discuss about what are LOD expressions and how LOD helps in Tableau visualization look better and how LOD expressions work. So these calculations are very different. So the earlier calculation, whatever we have done, so we those calculations will be based on the visual LOD. So I'll tell you what is visual LOD. So before going to know about visual LOD, let's talk about LOD expressions. So LOD expressions. Hi Prashant. Okay. So LOD expressions. Yeah. Hi. LOD expressions provide a way to easily compute aggregation that are not at the level of detail of the visualization. So for every visualization, there is a level of detail. So I'll just show you how that level of detail works. Okay, so let's go to the next visualization. Okay, so here, if you see on the left side, so we have row shelf, column shelf, and we have this workspace, which one highlighted, and this color marks card, size marks card, label, and detail and path. So whatever dimensions that we put in this highlighted ones, so those will be considered as my visual OD. If I go to Tableau desktop and connect to sample superstore data, and so whatever I put in this particular rows or columns or in postal code, or if I put in size, or if I put in label, or if I put in detail. Okay, so this will decide my level of detail. So what are the unique columns that are there? So city and city is repeated, region and region is repeated, and there are two uh, cities and two regions, and postal code and state province. So I can tell my visual OD is city, region, postal code, and state province. So this is my visual OD. So how am I telling this is as visual OD? Whatever columns or whatever fields that I put in rows or column shelves or in marks card, so that will be considered as my visual OD. So here you can see. So whatever you put in these fields, so to know about our visual OD, so the columns or the fields that we put in this uh, column shelf or row shelf or in the mark shelf, so those will be considered as my visual OD, which will change the vis level of detail. So let's do it again. So I'll do it from the starting. So if I take city column, okay, so I have city names, and when I try to put in postal code, so this will go one more level deeper to the next level. So what are the postal codes in that particular city? So that means by putting one more dimension, or but by putting one more field into this column shelf or row shelf or in the marks card, so I'm just changing the level of detail. So how am I changing the level of detail? By showing the one more aggregation level or one more level. So this way I'm able to change the level of detail. And if I try to put one more category or subcategory, my level is getting changed. I mean, earlier it was only postal code and city, and now it is category. So this is basically the visual OD. And visual OD will not change based on the measures. Okay. So let's say if I put in sum of sales and sum of profit, so that will not change anything here. So it will only show the values based on city, postal code, category, or whatever the columns, or whatever the dimensions that are there. So it will give only the information about those dimensions, and measures will not impact anything on the visual OD. Okay, so basically, so whenever you keep on adding the columns, so you can change the visibility. Okay, so can you tell me what is the visibility for this particular visualization that I'm showing? Rakib, can you tell me what is the visibility here? I mean, what are the, yeah, please. Yeah. So the level of detail is based on these columns. Okay, now let's try another example. Okay, Prashant, can you tell me what is the level of detail here? Okay, so whatever columns that we put in the row shelf or column shelf or in the marks card, all those columns will be considered as my visibility. So what are the visibility for this particular sheet? You have to specify the column names, all the column names. Yeah. Region, country, state, city, postal code. So I'm just keeping the column or the dimensional names which are there. So I'm just taking all these names. So this becomes my visibility. And now I will take an example of, let's say, yeah, Rakib. Those are not considered as visualities. Yeah. So that will not change the visualization. So let's say if I drop it here, so I have three columns and I type sales, profit. Okay, so that is not changing anything here. So these are like common only. So when I try to put in any column, let's say order ID. So it is giving one more level of information. So you can see the numbers also getting changed. Okay, so the level is changed. If you see, earlier postal code is only one. Now it is split into two. Earlier this was one, and now it is split. But based on profit and sales or based on measures, it will not change. The level will not change. Yeah. Okay. Divya, can you tell me what is the level of detail of this particular visualization that I'm sharing? So basically, not only here in the rows or column shell, so if you have it in this marks card also, so you need to consider those columns as a visual. So let's say if I have subcategory in this, let's say text, or let's put it in the detail. Okay. So now I have subcategory also. So now my visibility is not only category segment postal code order ID, I will also have subcategory. Okay, so based on the dimensional values, my level will change. So based on this visualization, hello, am I audible? Okay. So let's, okay, so whatever dimensions that you put in this marks card or in the column shelf or in the row shelf, so those will be considered as your visualities. And if you keep it in page shelf or filter shelf, those are not part of visuality. So if you put anything in filter shelf or in the page shelf, so those will not be considered as visuality. Let's say I have taken one new column and put it in the pages shelf. Okay, so that will not change anything in the, that will restrict the data, but that will not change the level of the values we are showing. Okay, so even if I put this in the filter shell, that will restrict the data, but it will not impact anything on the level of the detail. Okay, so that is about visuality. Yeah. Yeah, it is. You see, these numbers got changed. So if I remove this subcategory, it is only 205 here. Profit is. So when I put subcategory in the detail, the value is getting changed. So 244 minus 13. So this is for one subcategory and this is for another subcategory. So earlier it was combining together. Now it is showing separately for each subcategory. So it will change the visuality. So that is about visuality. Okay. So I will tell you why we have discussed about visuality. So LOD expression is depending upon the visuality. So it will not allow we can change the visuality. So by writing LOD expressions. So there are three scoping keywords. There are three scoping keywords which are fixed, include, and exclude. So even if the visuality is there, so we can say by using this LOD expression, we can manipulate this LOD. So key aspect of exploring data is understanding the structure of the source. And for example, you may have the restaurant inspection data at the most granular level information. So I will explain you about each and every LOD expression with an example. So in Tableau, you typically do this by dropping the dimensions you care about into your view. Depending on the dimensions you have chosen to add to the view, your data will be aggregated accordingly. So whatever dimensions that are being used, okay, so here I have used category, segment, postal code, order ID. So based on that, the profit and sales aggregation is happening. So if I remove this order ID, so the aggregation is happening only till postal code. So if I add one more column, what happens? So it will do aggregation at order ID level also. Okay, so that becomes my visual LOD. So now let's start with fixed LOD. Okay, so any questions about this visual LOD, or is it clear, or am I fast? I'll just take a break for 2 minutes, and if you have any questions, you can ask. Okay. Okay, so that is about visual LOD. So let's keep the name as visual LOD. Okay, so let's take category. So if I take sum of sales, I'll take 23 lakh 26,534 is my sum of sales. So now I will show you one basic LOD calculation. This is fixed LOD. Okay, without writing fixed, I can use just curly braces. In curly braces, if I write sum of sales, okay, this means, so I'm just commenting this. So I'm just writing a text. So this means I'm fixing this sum of sales. So when I say I'm fixing this sum of sales at total level, so what is the total right now? 23 lakh 26,534. So I apply, and let's say if I take category, so this 23 lakh 26,534, how it is splitted across category? 7 lakhs, 7 lakhs, 8 lakhs. So those 23 lakhs is split into 7 lakhs, 7 lakhs, and 8 lakhs. Okay. So by using this fixed calculation, so now I will put this fixed calculation. Okay. So what will happen is this will not change. It will still be showing the 23 lakh 26,534. So what this LOD calculation does is this is not dependent or fixed LOD. If we use, it will not be dependent on the visual LOD. Or we can control the visual LOD. By using LOD expression, we can control visual LOD. So how are we controlling? So I have used fixed LOD. So this is nothing but fixed LOD expression only. So you can write like this as well. Fixed. So this is the basic syntax. Okay, so the whatever syntax is there. So yeah. Is it visible now? What about now? Okay, so basically we can write fixed sum of sales, and we can, so this is the basic syntax, and you can put dimensions here. Okay, so like this you can mention. So for now, if you are not writing any column names, so this will be shown at a higher level, or whatever the total is there. Even if you put any number of columns here, so actually whatever, so in usual way, 23 lakh has to split into 3 categories. So here it is splitting, but we have written this LOD expression, so it is not splitting. So even if you use different columns, let's say region, okay, this number will split, but 23 lakh will not split the LOD expression. So I'm just controlling the visual LOD by writing LOD expressions. So you see this normal sales is getting, the values are getting changed. So the aggregation is being happen based on the columns that I'm using. But for this basic LOD, the values are not getting changed. Okay, so that way we can use this basic LOD. And so I'll tell you one scenario where we use this basic LOD. Okay, so now that we have category regions T, okay, so I want to know. So I want to know based on category and region. So let's say, yeah. So I want to know based on category and region, my sum of sales is 164,538. So in the basic LOD calculation, I will just edit it, and I'll include category, comma region. Okay, so I'm fixing it at category and region level. Say apply. Okay, I have in my visual LOD, I have category and region, and in LOD expression also I'm trying to fix it at category and region level. So now my basic LOD and my sum of sales will match. Why? Because I'm mentioning the level as category and region in the calculation as well. And in physiology also, it's category and region. Okay, so now let's see what happens when I put one more column. So if I put state as one more column, okay, so this is getting changed. So 164,538 is split into states. So this is my total 164,538. and this is not changing. And why this is not changing? So I'm just using LOD expression where I'm fixing this. So here I'm just fixing this category and region. It is being calculated only at this level. So every time this value is getting repeated. And I will tell you where this will be helpful. So I want to find out the percentage of each and every state based on the region. So I'll just take normal sum of sales. I'm creating a new calculated field where I will take sum of sales divided by basic LOD. So this is my percentage contribution. Say okay. And double click on this and say format. Click on percentage. Sorry. Click on this percentage contribution, make it percentage. Okay, so here now I'm able to see the percentage based on this thing. So let's say I have 10 values. So this is my total 164,538. So what is the contribution of Illinois based on these 10 values or 10 or 12 values, whatever it is there. So I'm just calculating the sum of sales divided by 164,538. So in central region, this state is giving 17% contribution and this is giving 10% contribution, like that. So let's say in India, we have like 130 or 140 crores of population. From that, Telangana is contributing 10%, Karnataka is contributing 5% to complete the 100% of population. So each and every state will contribute, or because of that states, you have a population of 140 crores. So in that way, in the central has 164,538 dollars of sales. So we are getting that much of sales because of these many states in that region. And you want to know, instead of the number, instead of the value, what is the percentage? So by doing this LOD calculation, we can know the percentage. So this is fixed LOD. Here, okay. Yeah, sure. I'll take another example also. Let's see. So let's take category. And sum of sales. So basically my total sum of sales is 23 lakh 23,000 something value is there. So those 23 lakhs is splitting across all these categories, furniture and office supplies. And this LOD expression, so there are two ways where you can write an LOD expression for only for fixed. Only for fixed you can write like this, or you can also write in curly braces, you can put sum of sales. So these are the two ways which are there. You can use either of the one. So let's use this one. So this will, so in this syntax, you cannot mention the dimensions, but in this syntax, you can mention dimension. And this is at whole level. So every time it will have 23 lakh. So every time it will have 23 lakh 26,534. So it will not dependent on the visibility. So how many number of dimensions that you keep, that value won't change. So this you are clear, right? How like you can keep 100 columns, it will not change. It will still show 23 lakh 26,534 only. Why? Because I'm just using a LOD expression which will control the with LOD. So I'm just trying to control the with LOD by writing LOD expression. Okay. So not only at the total level. So this is basically at doing at total level. And I can specify to which level of columns it has to aggregate. Okay, so not only at total level, let's say I want to aggregate only till category and subcategory. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 columns which are there. In that I want to consider only 2 columns to do the sum of sales, to do the aggregation. So basically when you take this normal sales, it is aggregating based on category, subcategory, region, city. Or let's take let's say country, so that it is easy to understand. I'm taking country. The country is United States. So in Canada and United States, there are states like this many. So in state, we'll have cities. In cities, we'll have postal codes. Okay, so this is easy to understand. Okay, so basically, this is my last column. So based on all these 4 columns, the aggregation is happening for normal sales. And my LOD expression will not change. And currently I have 4 dimensions and my values will be aggregated based on 4 dimensions. And let's say I want to consider I want to do total only based on country. Say apply. Okay, so now it is doing only at the level of country. So whenever Canada is there, so it will be it will show Canada value. And whenever United States is there, it will show United States value. So it will not consider the other columns which are there in the visual LOD. State, city, postal code, it will not consider. So Canada, for Canada, it will show Canada value which is there. So I'll just show you Canada value, country. So this is just showing Canada and United States values. So let's do this calculation one. Yeah. So here I can specify clearly that what dimensions to be considered. And let's take, I also want to include state as well. And say apply. Okay, so now it is calculating based on these 2 columns, country and state. Yeah, aggregation it will do only till this country and state, and it will not consider city and postal code. So now we'll see what are the exact values. So I'll put state here in the other sheet. Okay, so for Alberta it is 11,460. Okay, so Alberta is 11,460. So for sales, it is getting splitted for city and postal code, but our calculation which we have written for a LOD, it is not splitting. It is just showing you the value or aggregation till Alberta. So country and Alberta. So this is how we can write the calculation. So now what I'm doing is, so with this I can create a calculation or percentage contribution based on state. So I'll do sum of sales divided by calculation 1. Say okay. So this is being my denominator format. make it percentage. Okay, so 11,460. It is split into two postal codes. So 11,000. So that is why we can see the split 51% and 45%. Sorry, we are doing it based on state, right? So there are three postal codes. 1, 2, 3. So 51, 45, 4 will become your 100%. And this way British Columbia is there, and you have value of 2763. For each postal code, it will be 4%, 19%. Combining all these percentages together will become your 100%. So this way you can control the fixed dimension. Okay, so now I'll tell you how exactly you need to write this syntax. So when you type in fixed, okay, when you try to type in fixed, you can see that function is coming. So whenever you type enter, so you will see the curly braces will come. So every time you need to write LOD expressions in between the curly braces. And here you can mention before the colon, you can mention dimensions. You can mention dimension. You can, so there is no specific limitation. By putting commas, you can keep any number of dimensions. So this is one. And next one should be aggregation. So you have to have aggregation function here. Sum, min, max, or count listing, anything, you have to have an aggregation. So this can be a measure or a dimension. So if you take count, okay, so if you try to take count, so this can be a dimension also. But you have to have one of the aggregation. So that can be sum, min, max, count distinct. You can use any of this aggregation. So this is the syntax you need to use. Okay, so this syntax is similar for, it is similar for include and exclude. Just this name will change. So instead of fixed, you will use include. Instead of include, you will use exclude. Okay, the syntax is similar. So after this scoping keyword, so this is called as a scoping keyword. So in LOD expression, there are three scoping keywords. One is fixed, and the other one is include, and the other one is exclude. Okay, so the syntax is same for all the three. So after this, before colon and after this scoping keyword, you can mention the dimensions. And after colon, it has to be an aggregation function. So what if you don't write an aggregation function? Dimension also. Yeah, in here you can mention measure also, dimension also. So here I have not written this aggregation function. So you will get an error saying, so result of a level of detail must be an aggregate. Okay, so it has to be an aggregation function. So you have to use an aggregation. For dimensions, you will use count or count distinct as the aggregation function. For measures and all, you will use sum, min, max, all those aggregation functions. Okay, so that's about fixed LOD. And now let's see. So the definition of fixed LOD is nothing but it will fix the aggregation of the dimensions that are mentioned in the calculation. So it will not be dependent on the mentioned in the LOD calc. So this is not dependent on the Viz LOD without depending on the Viz LOD. Okay, so now let's see about include LOD. So okay. So let's take region. Let's take region. Or let me show this data. CSV. So this is my data. I'm just connecting. Okay, so basically this is my data that I'm connecting to. So now I'll show you the difference. So let's say I have all these regions and I also take sales. Okay, so can anyone tell me how this value is coming? So I have taken region and I have taken central and I am getting the sum of sales. So can anyone tell me like how am I getting that value based on this Excel? Okay, so let's go to region column. So I'll just filter on. I'll just filter on this central. Okay, so I have filter on central. So now I have only central records. Now I'll go to sum of sales and I will select all the rows. So what is the sum? 5,03,170. So that is what it is showing. Okay, so what it does is, so it will select central records and it will do sum of sales. In the same way, if I try to, so can you tell me about East region? So I will select East and I go to here. And if I select East data, so it is 6,91,828, which is this value. So it is calculating like this. And what if I do an average? Okay, so how this is getting calculated? So what is the definition of average, Divya? Sorry? Yeah. So sum of sales by number of rows which are there in the data. So now I have 6 lakh, let's say for each time calculating. So my numerator will be 6,91,828. So divided by, so what is my count? 2987. So there are 2987 records. So I'll just divide it by 2987, which will give me 231. So that is what it is showing. So I'm just I mean, so by default, so it will take the number of rows. So whenever you do an average in Tableau, it will by default do an sum of sales, total sum of sales divided by the number of rows in the data. Okay, so that is one. So this is basic normal average sales. Okay, so but by using LOD calculation, by using include LOD, I want to calculate average. I want to calculate average based on state. Based on state. Okay, so here what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to change the denominator. So here, so what are the, let's say subcategory only. So subcategory has 17 subcategories. Okay, so in that 17, so the denominator value I will try to change. So instead of dividing it with 2987, so if I want to do the average based on the subcategory. So now let's just see how this will happen. So let's use include LOD. Okay, so the definition of include LOD is to include the column or to include the dimension which is not there in with LOD. Okay, so here what I'm trying to do, I have written a LOD calculation about subcategory which is not there in Visual LOD. So Visual LOD is region. I am using only region dimension. So my Visual LOD is region. So I'm just trying to find out average based on subcategory. So let's use include LOD. So there will be no change in normal sum of sales and whatever the calculation that I have written. Okay, so there will be no change, but there will be a change if I do an average. If I do an average, it will include subcategory and then do the aggregation. Okay, so if you see the average, this has a different value and this has a different value. And I will tell you why it is different. So sales you take and keep it before this. And let's take count of order. Okay, so and here also, okay, so this is calculating based on the sum of sales divided by number of rows. So this is why you are getting this average sum of sales. And how we are getting this average is this sum of sales is common. Sum of sales, the numerator is common, but the denominator is the count of subcategories. Denominator is okay, so it is dividing it based on the subcategory. So 215 divided by 17. Sorry, 503 171 divided by 17. Yeah. So it is dividing it by 17 subcategories. So that is why you are getting this average. So now see it here. Let's try to find out for each region. So now that I have selected for this one. So I have 691,828. 691,828 is my sum of sales. And now let's calculate what is the subcategory, what are the subcategories that are available. So let's go here. Yeah, and let's take this column, Control C, go to new and data, remove duplicates, say okay. So there are 17 rows which are there. So you have to divide it with 17. This divided by this will give you 40,695. So which is your value. So this is basically doing the average based on subcategory. So now let's see region subcategory. Sales. Okay, so let me. Okay, so now tell me what is the average of this particular number. So how will I do the average? What will be the output of this one? So I'll do sum of all these numbers, right? I will do sum of this and divide it by the count of rows. So if I'm trying to find out the average for this central region, so in this scenario, what will I do? So I'll just take this sum of sales and divide by the 17 subcategories. For each and every region, there are 17 subcategories. Okay, so in this sheet, without adding subcategory in the visual OD, I'm just considering that 17 subcategories in the calculation without including my without including that in the visual OD. Okay, so I'm just doing the average. So how will I calculate for West region? Rakib, can you tell me if I want to find out the average for West region? So how will I do that in this scenario? Yeah, so sum of all these values divided by number of subcategories. So number of subcategories will always be 17. So every time you will, every time you will have to divide it by the 17. So that is what is happening without including that subcategory in the visual OD. So that is automatically happening here. So by writing this include LOD calculation. So first of all, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to do sum of sales, including subcategory. I'm doing the sum of sales. And when I try to do an average on top of that, include LOD. So it is doing the average based on like this. So it is doing sum for each and every region. It will do sum for the subcategories, and every time it will divide by the number of subcategories. Is it clear? Okay, so this LOD concept is very important, and we also have 2 more sessions for this. So this is just the introduction part of it. And So in the upcoming sessions, we will discuss on how to use this in different scenarios. I'll give you different examples for that. So okay, now let's discuss about exclude LOD. So the definition of exclude LOD is to exclude the dimensions which are already there in the view. So now let's see how this can exclude. So let's use category, subcategory, manufacturer, product name, and I'll take sales. Okay, so the sales value is split across this category, subcategory, manufacturer, and product. And now I will write the syntax. Okay, Divya, can you tell me the syntax? So I want to exclude subcategory. So tell me the syntax for excluding the subcategory. Okay, colon, then sum of sales. And close the curly braces. Okay, so let's do with this product name, so we'll understand better. Product name. So the aggregation is must for all the three LODs. So say apply, exclude LOD. So I have four dimensions, and I'm trying to exclude one product or one column. So it is showing you this 18,761, 12,770. So let's see. Let's put category, subcategory, and manufacturer, and take sales. So when I try to do an exclude of product name, so that means it is doing aggregation only till this three dimensions. So like this only it is doing. So 18,677.61, it is getting repeated for product names. So that is how it will calculate. And the manufacturer is Bush. Bush is 12,707, and it is doing aggregation only till these three dimensions. So I'm just excluding this product. So if you keep on keeping any other dimensions, it will exclude only this particular dimension only. So it will not do the aggregation for this product. So it will not consider product name at all. So that is how we can exclude the dimension which is already there in VisLOD. And this we can also achieve by using fixed as well. So by using fixed, how we can do is, so in this we have to include, or we have to add whatever the columns that we want to do the aggregation. So calculation 2. Okay, so the output is same. So exclude, I am trying to exclude the product name. Fixed meaning I am trying to, I'm telling Tableau that do the aggregation only based on these three columns. So if you exclude product name, it will be doing the aggregation based on these three columns. If you try to do the aggregation based on fixed by mentioning those three dimensions. So it will also do the aggregation based on that. So that is about LOD expressions. So we'll continue in tomorrow's session about in what all scenarios we'll use LOD expressions. So any questions? Okay. Okay then. Thank you for joining. We'll continue tomorrow. Thank you.